employment and entrepreneurship, and the objective to create an enabling environment for the reduction of youth unemployment. But, Mr. Speaker, what are those enablers? There are no enablers identified in this document. And again, I will ask the question, Mr. Speaker, what is the government's policy on employment? Yes, for youth. Thank you. Policy priority 3, Mr. Speaker, education and market-driven skills. And it speaks to developing an open and dynamic national system of formal and informal education. But, Mr. Speaker, after 17 months, what do you think this government is going to achieve over the next 3.5 years, is it? Or so long? 3 years and 5 months in government. Certainly, Mr. Speaker, the objectives on policy priority 3 are not going to be met. Because what are those training needs that you're speaking about? What are the challenges affecting young people? I have not read any of those in this document. But there were some other things I've been reading online, Mr. Speaker, where training is taking place for heavy-duty excavator operators. How many excavators do we have in the country? My last count was 700 and something. But on all of them practically already had operators. Mr. Speaker, how many people, for example, let us be statistically concerned, Mr. Speaker. How many young people in this country live in poverty? How many young people, Mr. Speaker? I'm not the government. Mr. Speaker, I'm not the government, sir. It is the government's duty to provide that information. Mr. Speaker, the other question I have on priority 4, Mr. Speaker, youth leadership, participation and representation. Why, Mr. Speaker, does the government have only one young person in Parliament? Of the 36 members of Parliament, why only one youth from the government in Parliament? Mr. Speaker, policy priority 5, youth safety, health and well-being. Right now, Mr. Speaker, I will say again that to be a Guyanese is to be a scared Guyanese, that many people are refusing. I have family from Borobis, Mr. Speaker, who are refusing to come to town because they're scared they're going to be robbed. Right, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, I have observed
Honourable member, please proceed. Yeah.
that the honourable member...
Is this a point of order?
Yes, sir. The honourable member has exceeded... Sir, the honourable member has exceeded the time allotted for him. And it's unfair to the side. He's not a minister, he's not a front bencher. He's already 40 minutes on his feet. And we are objecting to that.
Honourable Mr. Williams, the Speaker is well able to manage this chamber. I must tell you, however, that no time limits have been set. The Speaker will in due course impose the time limits.
So respectfully, the standing orders determine the time. The standing orders speak clearly to time limits.
Honourable Mr. Dharamlal, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'll be done shortly. Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to deconstruct this document so the young people of this country will know what obtains inside here. Mr. Speaker, they speak about life skills development, to promote the incorporation of life skills development in all programs. But what are those life skills that is speaking about? Swimming, martial arts, military training? Mr. Speaker, is that what life skills that we're talking about? Because I earlier said that there's a lot of ambiguity and the document is very onerous. It speaks about a supportive environment for the true Guyanese youth. But yet, Guyanese young people in some parts of Guyana feel vilified and violated and discriminated against. Mr. Speaker, it speaks as well, and I have a fundamental problem again, Mr. Speaker, about this. Youth routinely engage with adults in public spaces, including local parks, workplaces, churches, and schools. Mr. Speaker, the very basic thing, if you want to build cohesion and build a united country, if you say church, you got to say temple, you got to say mosque. So I'd be grateful if that could be also included, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it says too that these things are going to necessitate a conducive environment for youth engagement and development. And the government will thus, and there are a few things listed: promote youth-adult relationships, raise awareness of youth rights, encourage programs, projects, and activities that promote family and instill family values, create safe recreational and other youth-friendly spaces, blah, blah, blah. Mr. Speaker, this is a policy. This isn't a family planning manual. You know, my mother raised me well, Mr. Speaker. She did, and she did a tremendous job raising me well. And I'm sure our parents did tremendous jobs raising all of us well, including all the other young people of this country. Mr. Speaker, I'm almost done.
Honourable Member, you have been speaking for 37 minutes. The standing orders provide that after 30 minutes, you really don't have a right to speak. Now, I'll allow you 2 minutes to complete that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, unfortunately, I would have to go straight to my concluding points. And these are what I would like to propose to the government, Mr. Speaker. 2 minutes. I would like to see a legislative youth agenda addressed here. I would like to see a youth budget as part of this. I would like to see a policy on information. I would like to see some policies, an integration policy encompassing the sectors of our country. I would like to see this document based on youth research. I would like to see meaningful youth participation and not 0.6%. I would like to see more innovation spoken to in this document that takes account of young people's creativity and innovation. And Mr. Speaker, finally, as we proceed, I would really like, Mr. Speaker, to help this government and the thousands of young people, to help this government to create a real policy that is going to affect their lives and make this government look good by sending it to a parliamentary select committee so we can have more time to deliberate on it.
I thank the honourable member. Honourable members, we've now had the last two speakers spoke for well in excess of an hour. The last two speakers. We still have 10 speakers listed. I'm going to propose that every member who wishes to speak will speak for no more than 15 minutes. No extensions. The next speaker is